I had an interesting conversation with a Venezuelan refugee last week about what the collapse really looks like. From his experience going through the collapse of Venezuela a few years ago, where they just had massive hyperinflation, massive famine, food shortages, medication shortages, power outages left and right, just where they basically went from a near first world country to just the sewer that it is today. And I think that it was a good conversation to share with people because we talked about what practically happens. I've watched plenty of videos and listened to podcasts about prepping. I've used my own imagination. I've talked to people, sort of used the experience of my grandparents fleeing their countries, things like that. But there's nothing quite like the actual experience from somebody who went through a recent collapse and understanding in modern times what really plays out to be the important problems and the important solutions. So like what worked for people, what didn't work for people, what were the how did it actually look? So this guy, this Venezuelan refugee, he was a mover that we used to move my family to a new house, and we moved about an hour away from my previous house. And I got stuck in the truck with him for the drive. And we went back and forth a couple of times, so we ended up chatting quite a bit. Now, this guy does not speak a lick of English. He's been in the U.S. for 24 days. His story is pretty nuts. So back when shit was real bad in Venezuela, this guy escaped to Ecuador by bus, just him and his wife. Then they apparently paid a coyote $5,000, which is like the Spirit Airlines discount fare to get to the U.S. from Ecuador. And they fucking walked from Ecuador to the U.S. There were apparently like a few stretches where they had buses available for him, but the $5,000 was more or less just a route and like it's like coordination with cops and cartel members along the way, so that they could get through. And he said that they were just walking through straight up jungle. There's just dead bodies laying by the side of this path, like left and right. Cartel members fucking like cops fucking with people who hadn't paid for this passage or whatever. And they fucking walked from Ecuador up to the Texas border where they crossed into the U.S. illegally and intentionally got arrested. And this is, the instructions they were given by the coyote, because I'm sure they work with the U.S. government to facilitate this. But they were intentionally arrested by the Border Patrol. They took him to a apparently very, very nice, in his words, jail for a few days. They gave him a cell phone and a debit card and a ticket to our city, and just sent him on his way. So gave him some money and a phone and sent him off to a place to live. And all he has to do is check in once a week on his phone, which he has for free and he can use for whatever. And he just to show that he's still here, so that one day he'll presumably have a court date, which of course he'll never have. And that's very interesting. So that's a little bit of an insight into like how the whole, illegal immigration system works here. It's obviously facilitated by the Border Patrol. There is no border. The goal here is to destroy the border and create just a conglomeration of American states or some shit. But that's not the point here. That's not why I'm sharing the story. The story I'm sharing is what the collapse looked like for him, and like what could you do about a similar situation. So my first question for this guy was, what were the warning signs that things were going to get really, really bad? And apparently, shit really started going downhill when hyperinflation took off. And according to this guy, not that he paid a ton of attention, like he was just a concrete guy, probably partying and shit, like not really paying attention to politics or economics. But he said that one day, basically money went from usable to completely unreliable and nobody took it. It was very sudden. And I mean, if you're paying attention, you're probably going to have a little bit more of a heads up than this dude did. But it sounds like that for most of the population, it's just going to be, holy shit, money isn't usable anymore. That sort of situation. All of a sudden. And the thing about that is that you now have no medium of exchange. So even if you have gold and silver and things like that, it's not in circulation. So you can't like make change for silver or whatever. You can't other people don't have it to use. So the medium of exchange apparently has to become something else. And according to this guy, it was basically anything, like just junk. The biggest problem for everyone when this started happening was food, obviously, because everybody has to eat. And that was the all-consuming goal of everybody this guy says he knew, was just getting food. And they would sell anything they had. They would trade like roller skates, sports equipment, like kitchen appliances, fucking just whatever little junk and trinkets. Like we were throwing away in this move a ton of just junk, like my mother-in-law kind of hoards. So we were just trying to cleanse, like a purge or whatever they call it, our house. He said that all that sort of shit is shit that they would trade for food. So, full disclosure, I still threw that shit away. but it did make me consider, maybe we'll just get a storage container or something, or a storage spot, and let her collect some stuff, because she still has that. So we have an option to go in there and get it. But apparently just junk like that is what turns into currency. Because, everybody at the same time is going to need food. And you're going to be able to just trade crap for food. He said some people there's always someone out there who wants something that you have and has access to food. And you'll be able to, I guess that market just sort of spontaneously comes about. So the point is silver and gold are not going to be immediately the most helpful things to you. Now, I think those could be good in the longer term, since the currency is just going to completely just go fucking rock bottom. It maintains some wealth. If it does start becoming a situation where silver is in circulation and it's, it becomes sort of an accepted currency because nothing else has come along to replace a dollar, then it's as valuable as that. But at least it's a store of wealth. And it's good for things like bribing people or like getting yourself through a checkpoint. So there is that. So that was one of the biggest things. Now, he said one of the other things that people have a problem with is medication. And he said that old people were just dying left or right because they just couldn't get access to medication they needed to stay alive. And also kids were dying from starvation, from actual just famine. And this was just a very common occurrence. To the point where they were going to their version of Costco, and the workers there would throw out back rotted meat, and they would just go cut off the part that was rotten and go eat the rest. So that's sort of how he said it went. And the only thing that I think is really important to highlight there is the fact that just any damn thing becomes currency. So I don't know what the market looks like for that, but I think the best thing that you could do to avoid having to just, find somebody who wants your junk is to stockpile food. Before gold, before silver, I would stockpile food. Just any way you can. Can your own goods, canned goods, rice, I don't know. I'm not a nutritionist, but I do understand that you need protein, carbohydrates, and essential vitamins to live. So that's what I stockpile. And I think that's what I'll focus on. That and ammo, of course. Because the other thing he said is that in Venezuela, if they had guns, none of this shit would have gone this way. So that's something to keep in mind. So anyways, my advice then might be common sense, but just for, the thoughts of what do you sort of focus putting your money on as a prepper? Food and ammo, I think, is the obvious but sort of validated answer. Gold, silver, still good, but food is going to be the gold for at least some period of time if shit really does break down, because, well, people get to eat. And then ammo for obvious reasons. All right, I hope that's helpful or clarifying. And please comment.